And then just
so Myles really likes The Revenant. He wants to give it 5 stars, and that's what we're here to discuss today. He says it's his favorite movie after Snow Dogs.
Actually, I think Snow Dogs is better, yeah, for sure.
Whoa, you think Snow Dogs is better than The Revenant?
Yes, I do. There's a lot more to enjoy and take out of that movie compared
They both
to...
involve snow.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. How come that one didn't get any Oscar nods?
Well,
So
you
much
know,
in
they
common.
didn't have Leonardo DiCaprio sticking his tongue out going, ah. They also didn't fight a bear. I mean, come on. If they would have fought a bear in Snow Dogs, how rad would that have been?
You know what I want to see?
Cool Runnings?
No.
Oh.
Actually, that's a good movie.
That is a good movie. That's not a 5-star movie. So that brings us on what we're going to talk about today. What is a 5-star movie? According to Myles, it's not The Revenant, it's not Snow Dogs, and it's not Cool Runnings. So, I mean, we do a lot of ratings around here on the show. So it's time to finally settle this once and for all. A lot of people have asked us how we rate our movies and what is considered a 5-star movie. That's what we are going to talk about here tonight on the show. Are you guys ready?
I love Cool Runnings.
You also like turtles.
I like turtles.
Hey, this is JPar, and this is the We Promise Nothing Show. Today on the show, we have Myles, we have Clayton, and we have Dabu. Before we get things started, I want everyone to remember that the music you listen to right now has been brought to you by SoundsLikeAnEarful.com. If you need great music for your podcast, check them out. SoundsLikeAnEarful.com. Now, this week on the show, we're not necessarily doing a rating. We are going to talk about ratings. That's right. We're going to determine what a 5-star movie is, and we're going to go around the table, and we're actually going to say what our choice is this week for a 5-star movie. I mean, maybe some of us have more than one 5-star movie. I don't know. These guys are pretty skeptical when it comes to movies sometimes. So, first of all, let's figure out what's a 5-star movie. Guys, introduce yourself to the crowd.
Hey guys, it's Clayton. Holding it together.
Barely.
Myles here to drop some knowledge.
Boom!
On the ground.
And Dabu here, guys.
Alright, and we are going to be talking about what just makes a 5-star movie. So maybe, Myles, you could start us off. What are the qualifications that fulfill a 5-star movie? Now, I don't want you guys to let the audience know just quite yet what our 5-star movie is. We're going to debate and argue about that later because we know you guys love to listen to that. But let's establish what makes a 5-star movie. What are the credentials you're looking for, Myles, in a 5-star movie?
And that's very important that you said for Myles. What does Myles think a 5-star movie is? Because we're all going to have different opinions. Maybe the movie's funny. Maybe it's action-packed. Maybe it's suspense, thriller, horror. But for me, you keep me in the movie, and I forget that I'm watching a movie and I'm taken away. I'm taken somewhere else, and that to me is good direction, maybe good special effects, and a good story, obviously. So the second any of those, that balance is lost or it's shifted, and I'm out of the movie, then you lose your 5-star. And that's why I have a couple honorable mentions there later, because it was hard, but there was something that happened in each one of my honorable mention movies that took me out. But the one 5-star that I have for you today kept me intrigued from start to finish.
You do only have one 5-star movie.
Yes, I only have one 5-star.
So
let's just clarify that.
All right, Dabu, what are the credentials you're looking for in a 5-star movie?
Well, Myles was right. I mean, everyone's going to have their own opinions, so we certainly need to keep an open mind there for that. For me, it had to do with not only bringing you out of reality and into the world that they're creating, and I think that's a good part of any story, really. If it takes you out of your existence and brings you into theirs, it's telling the story the way it should be done. For me, I think the credentials that ended for me was, well, one, it had to be rewatchable. Meaning no surprises could be unfoiled on the first watch through, and then all of a sudden a second and third playthrough, or watch I should say, suddenly all of the surprise elements get thrown out the window. I don't want that. So that, along with the fact that if it was a timeless piece, if I said I could see this 10, 20, 30 years from now and still rewatch it and enjoy it for what it was doing at that original time, then I think it did its job. To me, that's what a really good, high-quality movie should bring. As for the 5 stars, it's all the other little extras that add to that, I think, on top of it. So I'm curious to see what everyone today has to say about that.
Okay, Clayton, anything that you want to add to that? Like how you would judge your 5-star movies?
Oh, if it's as long as I feel that the director had a clean idea, like he conveys the idea, the message about the movie that he wants to get across, and he stays focused, or she stays focused, and they carry me with them through their vision, then it gets a 5-star from me. It doesn't matter if it's a comedy or an action movie or a drama or whatever. If I see what the director clearly wants me to see and I get the message, then that's a damn good movie.
Mm-hmm. And something that Dabu and Myles said a little bit earlier, it is going to be different for each of us. We're all going to have our own specifications on what we think a 5-star movie is. And I find, even for me, what I would rate a 5-star movie sometimes is just based on nostalgia's sake, because I've grown up with these movies. So you can't replace that. Like when you're growing up with certain movies as a child, they're the movies that make you love movies. Nobody else is going to be able to tell you otherwise that it's a different rating. So you're going to definitely hear a different varying degrees of why we think our movies are worth that 5-star rating. And they're going to be different for the other guys. I mean, they're not going to agree with me, and I'm not going to agree with them. And that's something you got to keep in mind when we are rating movies and you listen to when we rate, is that we're all going to have a different opinion. Just because I say Civil War is a 5-star movie doesn't mean it's a 5-star movie. In fact, I've rewatched it and I could probably retcon it. I could probably give it a little bit lower, or, something like that. But we'll get into that. And in fact, that's what we are going to be doing in the future. We will be doing a ratings retcon. I feel like there's some that have been sticking in my side and it's been throwing my rating curve off, so I'm going to definitely have to do that. So look forward to that video in the future. Alright, so let's get down to the nitty gritty. What are the 5-star movies? Does anyone want to go first? Who wants to set the bar?
How about I'll start with my honorable mentions.
Okay.
Just to give you an idea.
Now, so what you're saying are these honorable mentions are a 4.5?
They're close. Maybe even a 4.86.
Yeah.
If that was a real...
That's a Clayton rating. Yeah, you can't do that.
It's so close, but every one of my honorable mentions, there's just one thing that happened and it just took me out of the movie for a second. It's like, oh yeah, I'm watching a movie. This isn't real. I gotta pay bills tomorrow. That sort of thing. So...
Alright, so let us know what your 5-star is, and then later after this we'll talk about your honorable mentions.
Okay, so my 5-star, took me a while to figure this out, Terminator 2.
Oh!
Yeah. Nice.
Director James Cameron.
Yes!
Came out in 1991.
Damn.
Edward Furlong and Arnold Schwarzenegger were the main stars. It was almost like a tag team robot come back through time, shoot 'em up,
Linda Hamilton.
Thriller. Linda Hamilton was in it too. And here's the best part. I've never even seen the first movie.
Oh.
What? I've never seen Terminator 1. I'm just going to throw that out there. I've seen Terminator 2.
Wow.
And it holds its own. I didn't need the first one to enjoy the second one, which makes it even a better movie, in my opinion. My humble opinion. The reason why I give it a 5-star? It's got action. It's got intrigue. It's got the sci-fi element. It's got some really good, deep story of post-apocalyptic doom. And it feels like there's this rising tension. Everything's leading up to this one point. Spoiler, Skynet taking over the world. And I loved it. I loved every minute of that movie. It was just so good. From the beginning, like the introduction of Arnold Schwarzenegger as the, I want to say T-1000.
T-800.
T-800, thank you. And, how could I forget T-1000? Like, he was so good.
Yeah, Robert Patrick.
Every time he was on screen,
Robert
just
Patrick,
his resting
this
bitch
is his
face
first
the entire
big
time.
role. Like,
No, that's not true.
well,
He
what
was
did he?
also Fire in the Sky.
Oh,
He was
there you
in Fire
go.
in the Sky.
Oh, was he? Okay.
Yeah.
Nice name.
Well, everyone remembers him for this, though, being the T-1000.
that's true, yeah.
Every time you see him, if you can't remember his name, you're like, oh, it's the T-1000.
T-1000.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it had a really good villain that chased them all throughout the movie. It had that rising
James
tension.
Cameron brought that sci-fi look from The Abyss back into the
Oh,
T-1000.
For sure. But that's why it was good for me. It had the action, it had the intrigue, it had the tension, it had the story, it had the really amazing direction. It had great performances from breakout stars like Edward Furlong. Even Arnold Schwarzenegger was good. I don't know. It was just a really overall great movie for me. And you didn't need to watch the previous movie. How many movies can you say the sequel was better than the original?
Yeah,
There's not many.
Not many.
And how many sequels
Except
can you watch
I
without
might
watching
have
the
one
first
that
one?
I might have a movie where my sequel might top your sequel, but we will talk about that in a second.
It'll top it in your world.
Oh, okay. Clayton, shoot. What's your 5-star?
I'm going to go with.
You're so energetic about it too. There.
Well, I'm thinking about it. Like I'm really battling it out here, but I am going to go with Ridley Scott's Alien.
The original
Alien.
Alien.
Yeah.
Which we plan on reviewing soon, which is kind of funny. So
That's awesome, and I'm
Very
totally
cool.
down for that because I like the fact that, and I saw Alien when I was young, but I always liked the fact that it was the things throughout the movie that you didn't see that scared you the most. They worked around, like, as I got older, I could grow up with that movie. I could watch it, and I could see new things as I got older, right? Because when you're a little kid, you see you see the alien, and it might as well be real. And then you get older, and the special effects don't look as good, but you look at where you can tell that they kind of tried to play around with the lighting and using special effects and stuff to kind of mask the fact that it's just a puppet or it's just a guy in a suit. And I liked the unnerving tone of the entire movie, how it's just scary as hell through the whole thing, but it's not necessarily like, say, Aliens 2, James Cameron, where it's out and out warfare against the aliens and he turned it into this big action style movie. I like that.
So the first one's a thriller, the second one's an action movie.
Yeah.
Just like Terminator.
Alien and Aliens constantly reinvents itself throughout the series as well. But that first one for me, and I've watched it a million times on VHS actually, which takes it to another notch of like right into that nostalgia territory that you're talking about. It's got a great protagonist in Ripley, and the alien itself.
Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah, the alien itself is.
And that's something else. Both these movies, have a female protagonist.
Yeah,
well, at least the original Terminator does.
Yeah.
I mean,
but Sarah Connor.
she's still kind of a protagonist in this. She's still a protagonist.
She
in the
kicks
second
ass.
one. Yeah, she
does.
does.
But Sigourney Weaver's character in the first one is an awesome female lead, and there are so many things that we take for granted now that Alien introduced you to. The whole idea of the replicants, the androids, the alien itself, that whole alien concept itself is so commonplace now you don't even think about it. But that movie introduced a lot of staples, and it introduced the world to the artwork of H.R. Giger.
Yeah, thank you.
Which has been often imitated.
Giger or Geiger?
Giger.
I always called him Geiger.
It's pronounced Giger.
Oh, yeah, cool. Yeah, good one.
Good choice.
Dabo.
Oh, you guys are choosing some great sci-fi flicks here. I feel like I should
you're gonna have to
change your
choose a
mind
good
to
one.
fit the theme here. No, I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm going to go completely out of left field. I had to wrestle with my thoughts on
Oh,
this.
so you're gonna choose wrestler
No.
The wrestler?
with Mickey Rourke? No,
That one wasn't that bad, but no, that's nowhere near 5-star.
that's not 5-star.
No, for me, it had to hit all the right elements, and I think I have a lot more 5-star movies maybe than I think when I really think about it. But narrowing it down to just the one for now, Forrest Gump. It had everything for me going for it. It had a very compelling story. It had a very much a protagonist, or even just a character that you can't even cheer for because it's just a lot of the things he does. It had nothing to do with. It was just an interesting character living a life that was so extraordinary that none of us would be able to relate to it because he's done it all in a single lifespan. And having said that, the entire movie story arc kind of had this effect where it was like a whole bunch of these mini stories throughout a larger story. all of the while he's just sitting at a bench telling the story to random strangers that come by to happen to listen to him. So it was such an interesting take on how a movie should be told that it kept me captivated all the way through. Now, even to this day, if I were to rewatch that movie, it's got a lot of the iconic scenes. It's got all of the quotable moments. It's got such great humor that can be easily timeless. I mean,
I got shot in the buttocks.
Yeah, I got a pie. Well, there's so many moments where I feel like I will always laugh my ass off that I will never get bored of it. There's no shocking surprise elements that after I've seen it the first and second time that from then on it loses its luster. And there's going to be a few nominations I'll mention later that kind of had that effect for me, where the movie was great on its first watch, but then on the second and third watch, it's like, wow, it really lost its impact. So this one here, by far, kind of kept me going all the way through. It had me tearing up, it had me laughing, it had me, yelling at the damn TV, like there was everything going on. So absolutely, if it had me reacting that well, then clearly there was something good going on during the storytelling. But it was everything. It was Tom Hanks's performance. It was the score. It was the believable backdrop, because a lot of it was based off of real events in the real world. So again, there was a lot of it that I was able to take with me every time I watched it a new time. So
all right. Not where I would go with Forrest Gump, but as I said, everyone's got a different opinion, and you guys are probably gonna disagree with mine. But I gotta go with something that made me fall in love with movies, and what I believe is one of the biggest influences in all of movie history, and we wouldn't have as many epic tales and the storytelling that we have without this franchise, and that's why I'm going to go with Empire Strikes Back. To me, that is a 5-star movie. I know it's easy to go for Star Wars, but I have a lot of 5-star movies that I like, but this one, I could simply say, man, if you don't like Star Wars...
It's funny, when you were commenting on which
then you don't like movies
better than the original, that would have been one I would have said.
And that's what I was saying. I was just like, if there is a sequel that's better than the original, it is Empire Strikes Back. And like I said, the world building, like these are the kind of things we look forward to when we go to the theater now. We want to see the effects. We want to see the characters that we fall in love with. We want to see the world that we just want to be a part of. And everyone wants to be a part of the Star Wars world. Anyone who loves sci-fi or fantasy, they love fucking Star Wars, or at least I fucking hope they do. Like I said, if you don't like Star Wars, you don't like movies. So that's my opinion. There's many movies I would give 5 stars, but damn, Empire Strikes Back. Luke, I am your father. Introduce us to Yoda, the AT-AT battle, on Hoth. Oh my god. Han Solo's sacrifice. This movie has everything. I love you. I know. Oh my god! Yeah, love this movie. Frozen in Carbonite. Great.
Probably one of my favorite of all the Star Wars scenes is in that one alone, which is Luke trying to get his lightsaber when he's frozen upside down, about to get eaten alive by what you call it? Sorry, I forget the name.
It's
of
a
it.
Wampa.
A Wampa. Thank you. I knew it started with a W. But that by far, that was one of those scenes that even as a child I could always remember. Always had me squirming in my seat.
Yeah. I have to disagree with you actually on that one hard.
Uh-oh.
I love Star Wars. Don't get me wrong. Don't flame me here, guys. I fucking love Star Wars. 30 years worth of,
Now, should we argue why
we will be doing that. We are going to argue to say why the other guys aren't worth 5 stars. We are going to get into that debate.
Oh, good.
But let's hear some honorable mentions first, Myles.
Okay, so I have a couple here. Let me get my scroll. So Jurassic Park.
Ooh,
you know what?
Damn.
I was wrestling with Jurassic Park and Terminator 2
really
for the
good.
longest time. I don't know what in Jurassic Park doesn't give it the 5-star. It's so close. But that was definitely an honorable mention. Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
That's a fun movie.
That was a great movie. The only thing that didn't do it for me is the start was almost like one movie, and then maybe 20 minutes in, it completely changed. The tone was completely bonkers, and that's what I loved. I wish the movie was kind of it didn't have that intro, that 20-minute intro of just a bunch of kids sitting around shooting the shit.
It was less stylized at the beginning, I think.
Yeah,
is maybe what you
it
mean.
was
Yeah.
very calm, tame, but maybe that's what they're going for. It's like, oh shit, now it's a video game.
Okay, one more honorable mention because we don't want to give everything away.
Okay, The Matrix.
All right. Wait, you didn't give it a 5, did you? When we
No,
rated it?
these are
Oh,
honorable
right.
mentions.
Oh, okay,
These
that
are
makes
close. The
Good call.
first Matrix.
All right,
Not
call,
the second one.
call
not
me
the
on my
third.
shit. All right,
That's all right. Don't fuck up.
all right. Honorable mentions. Who went? You went second, right?
Nope. Clayton did.
Oh, okay.
did I?
Honorable mentions.
Okay, my honorable mentions are going to have to be Boondock Saints.
Okay, let me specify. Honorable mentions. They could be still 5 stars or 4.5.
Well, they're-
just once you
Alien
consider close
still-
to that.
Alien still comes out a cut above, but
Okay.
the first Boondock Saints, and I have to stress that, only the first Boondock Saints. I don't care what's his name is doing with the franchise now. The first Boondock Saints was an amazing, awesome movie. I must have watched it 50 times. Like, I have seen that movie so many times, and I just love everything about it. I love the everyday superheroes of the McManus brothers, and I love Billy Connolly as El Doce, and I'm a huge Willem Dafoe fan, so I really liked him as Christ, now I can't remember his name.
That's all right. The cross-dressing detective.
Yeah. It was funny. It had lots of humor and lots of action, gunplay, cool, like taking out the Russian mafia. The whole premise of it was awesome. And my second honorable mention is going to be right around the same time, Donnie Darko. I was a massive fan of Donnie Darko when it came out. Probably just because I was at that age, where I was counterculture, I was questioning everything, and Donnie Darko kind of takes you down an amateur idea of time and space travel. And Jake Gyllenhaal did a really good job as that character, and what's her name? Noah Wiley and Drew Barrymore were also in it. They played really good parts, and that's where I'm going with that.
All right, you want one more?
One more, Conan the Barbarian. starring
Oh,
Arnold
baby.
Schwarzenegger.
Nice.
Dude punches a camel.
I am a huge Robert E. Howard Conan fan. I love everything
Love
Conan.
Conan.
But that one there has to sit just under because Alien is just
Conan, what is best in life?
Even though the Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Conan movies, everybody makes fun of them now, but you have to remember that in the early 80s, when Conan magazines were selling like hotcakes and heavy metal was at an all-time high, Conan inspired Conan inspired 10 years of imitators in the movie scene. Until they got to the point where they were doing like Xena Warrior Princess and they had completely watered it down and everything was chrome or steel and just garbage. But Conan originated that whole swords and sandals fantasy on the big screen.
Well,
like,
I don't know if
I
they
could argue that.
I don't know if they originated it.
I misspoke. They didn't originate it, but he definitely made it popular. They made it mainstream.
I will agree with that.
Yeah.
Honorable mentions, Dabu.
Those are all great ones, actually. Except for Conan, by the way.
Conan's great.
Hey, you take that back.
All right. Well, if I narrow down my list, I'm going to grab two of one of... Actually, these are movies I still enjoy watching to this day. Blade Runner, the original.
Oh, nice.
And I say the original because we do have a new one coming. But in my opinion, that was when, even before Indiana Jones, I felt like that was one of those iconic Harrison Ford roles that I just fell in love with it immediately. And talk about taking you out of reality and bringing you into their world. That movie did it so damn well. I mean, I can even remember that scene where the hover cars are coming into the cityscape and area, and then you could see just how much of an advanced civilization humanity's evolved into. And it's a very believable one on top of that too. So that entire movie had so many great things that, again, can be very rewatchable, but it's got its moments where it takes you out a little too much, and I feel like it loses its traction. I think I don't know where. I'd have to rewatch it again, but there were some moments I remember where it felt like it didn't seem right. So probably that caused me not to give it its full 5-star rating. God, the other one I'm really wrestling with again, not with the wrestler. It actually
No Holds Barred, starring Hulk Hogan.
No.
Whoa.
No, I'm going to go with 7, as in the Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman movie, which actually that was around the time when I was a huge fan of other movies similar to that tone, such as Fight Club. Both of which have an interesting way of telling a story and are totally not comparable to the rest of these movies, I might add. It's really hard to sit them next to each of these others because they don't have the same embellished story that unfolds. It's kept quite simple, but at the same time, it has you confused all the way through, that you're always guessing what's going to happen next. 7 at least put you in a believable moment, but had you completely dumbfounded at how each of these crime scenes would evolve into them that much more gruesome of a death for the next coming victim. And I think just with Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt and
Kevin Spacey.
Thank you, Kevin Spacey playing the villain. Kevin actually is, for me, the biggest surprise of them all. I didn't expect him to play such a great, badass villain. And he was so calm about it, too. Christ, he even walks into the police station to give himself up, for crying out loud. So, yeah, these were movies that made it quite close to the 5-star rating.
Did you want to do another honorable mention? Because they did 3, so...
Oh, God, what was that other one I was thinking of?
Conan the Barbarian.
Actually, no, one that was probably just as screwed up was Requiem for a Dream.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a little bit reaching for me, but that was one film. Maybe for me personally, it had me really uncomfortable, but in a good way, because the movie was supposed to do that. The weird telling of a story of a couple of young ones and their best friends, actually, where they live in the drug scene, so to speak. They live in such an environment where they're always, ingesting some form of drug to get them into the next day. And then you suddenly realize just how dependent they are on these drugs, that they will do just about anything to fulfill that fix. Mm-hmm. And that's entirely what this entire movie is. And it's not just that. It starts to show you other point of views from, his mother,
yeah.
and how the pharmaceuticals would affect them too. I guess speed was a common thing back in the day that was given and prescribed to people. And then nowadays we know that that's not right. But it was interesting to see that used in this kind of a story, and it had me so damn uncomfortable that I really enjoy rewatching it. I don't know what it is with that movie, but you know what it is? It's their performances. It had to do with their individual performances in a really screwed up, fucked up, storytelling. Mm-hmm. But it melded nicely together, and I think that's probably what it was.
All right, wow. I gotta say, I'm not disappointed with you guys' choices. I got some pretty good movies listed here. Okay, for me, I mean, I could rate more than one movie as a 5-star movie, so these are all the mentions. They're just not the ones I chose to defend today to put up against their 5-star movies. I could rate these a 4.5 or a 5, depending on, what mood I'm in sometimes. So I don't want to give everything away, because I feel like if I tell you all my favorite movies, then there's going to save nothing for future episodes. So I'm going to tell you one that you already know already, and that's the original Ghostbusters. And once again, this is one that comes into play because it has a nostalgia factor for me. It's a movie I grew up with. It was the first movie that I just really loved. And I just fell in love with Bill Murray's humor. And ever since then, I've been a huge Bill Murray fan, and he's influenced the way I see comedy in movies. So that's there for me. It's the comedy mixed with the action. It's, it's enough jokes to be great, but while not being corny. And it's like enough. It's just a perfect blend for me. Okay, so another one in the grand scale of epic storytelling that's a part of a trilogy, and it's also a part 2, because part 2s are always better than part 3s, and that's The Two Towers, Lord of the Rings. Dun 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 dun. You hear that horn when the orcs come over the hill and they're gonna attack Helm's Deep, and shit is about to go down. There's bodies flying everywhere, limbs being chopped off. This is bloody glory violence at its best. And it's all done with magic, and in this magical world, and Lord of the Rings kicks ass. What can I say? Yeah. Alright, and I'll say my final one, which is one of my all-time favorite movies ever since I saw it. You're actually already kind of mentioned it, and it's Fight Club. Why the ear, man? Why'd you hit me in the ear? Yeah. What's the first rule of Fight Club? You don't talk about Fight Club. What's the second rule of Fight Club? You don't talk about Fight Club unless it's a 5-star movie or close to a 5-star movie. So those are my honorable mentions.
Yeah, I was juggling around Fight Club too. That movie's so quotable. Everything about it is just so excellent. Yeah,
it's like like back in the day, it's like Brad Pitt is this pretty boy, right? You just want to punch him in the face. And then you watch Fight Club, you're like, oh, you're so damn cool, Brad Pitt.
Yeah. I love everything you've ever been in, Brad Pitt.
It's funny you mentioned the term pretty boy, because that's actually the role played by Jared Leto in the movie, which I didn't know he was in the movie until much later, because... Actually, no, it wasn't even Requiem. I think it was just due to the fact that I was such a big fan of Fight Club that it got to the point where I started getting familiar with the entire cast, and then Jared's name just kind of popped up. So, of course, I went one step further to find out where in the movie he was. He only shows up in 2 scenes. One is during the restaurant when they're
ordering the soup or
it's
whatever.
the special of the soup, the soup of the day.
Soup of the day.
And the moment when he's getting his face pummeled in, which you can't tell it's him because he's completely bloodied up, right?
Face like a half
I just want to
caramel.
destroy something beautiful.
Exactly. Hence the pretty boy. I think is literally the term they give him in the movie.
Yeah.
So.
I wanted to spill. Oh, what's he say? Spill oil on all those French beaches. I wanted to breathe
Yeah.
smoke.
I wanted to breathe smoke. Yeah.
See, the reason
I
why-
wanted to put a bullet in every panda that didn't want to fuck to save its species.
Yeah.
Yeah, love that fucking movie.
See, I love the movie, but you want to know why I couldn't give it a full 5 stars for me? I'm just going to say this out there. It was the surprise ending. It had to do with the fact that you knew...
But we're not here to debate that. We're here to debate the 5-star movies that we're going for.
No,
so let's
that's why I'm
Yeah.
commenting about
All
why
right.
it's only not... Oh, forget it.
I'm not gonna get into
No,
that
no,
debate.
he's right, because I need to take you on about Empire.
Well, that's the whole point.
Well, the point is we're going to debate the 5 stars
The
that he
5
chooses.
stars,
Don't
not
worry
the
about
others.
our honorable mentions.
Yeah,
Don't worry about that.
I get that. I was just trying to justify why I...
If
I
anything,
came
say
close.
something as to why Forrest Gump is better than our 5-star movies, which is not, but go ahead and try.
You know what? Boo, you're actually not the first man that I have actually heard say that Forrest Gump is their favorite.
Why did you have to
movie.
specify as a man?
Because you know why. No. It just you're not the first person. Like, well, it's in a lot of like Forrest Gump.
It's a bit of a chick flick. I mean, if
Forrest
you want
Gump is the kind of
label
movie
it.
that what my girlfriend would like, and then a lot of women
Yeah.
like. But like lots of guys like it too. But to actually call it out as your favorite movie, you're not the first guy that I've heard say that.
I think this is why we're going to have an interesting debate, guys, because if we're talking about why each of us has a different type of 5-star rating, sounds to me like Jason just loves balls to the wall action and limbs flying everywhere. But that's my comment, right?
How many limbs fly in Empire Strikes Back? How many limbs fly in Fight Club?
Well,
Apparently there's one in Empire
I think
Strikes
there's
Back.
one in
There's one in Empire.
One arm.
Okay, Luke's hand at least.
and the Wampa.
And of course he jumps on that.
That's a wampa. That doesn't count.
That counts.
I will
He's a
say this
person.
though,
He's a person.
they're both epic flicks, and I can understand why you would choose those. Whereas a film like for the Forrest Gump that I chose, I felt like that was a movie because for me it hit all the right notes in a very surprising fashion. That's the only reason why mine was like that.
You know, I want to go across the table here and tell you something, Noah, that's going to kind of bring some stuff in for you.
table.
You were talking about Blade Runner,
Yeah.
and I was saying how Alien was my favorite thing. Well, Ridley Scott directed both of those, right?
Yeah.
No.
He actually, Eldon Tyrell, the CEO of the Tyrell Corporation, and Peter Wayland,
Yeah, they were friends.
they were actually friends.
Yeah, I
And,
remember hearing that.
Ridley had written up a mock letter talking, I believe it was about Wayland discussing his friendship with Tyrell and how they were talking about artificial life versus
Extending life.
life versus
lifespan.
artificial life, or the follies of artificial life. It was really cool to read that. Like,
So in other words, it tied in the 2 universes, which is
yeah,
pretty cool.
yeah. Well, Scott's 2 universes, they're happening in the same universe. Basically, what they're doing, and I thought that was neat.
So
Where do we
that's
start?
why yours is better than Forrest Gump?
No. I'm just saying. I just thought it was a neat little thing that I remembered about the connection between Blade Runner and Alien.
Tell you what, I feel like Myles should start us off by debating why he feels his is better than ours.
Well, it all comes down to personal opinion because I enjoyed Forrest Gump. Like you said, it's got so many like iconic moments, and it's just funny to look back. Like I invested in this Apple Corporation or Fruit Corporation.
Yeah, it was
You
the
see the Apple logo, it's like, oh, that's cute. There was a lot of like cute little moments in time that you can really hold on to and laugh at, and it was cool to see him stumble around, and at the same time he's either saving people or he's changing people's lives, but he doesn't even realize it because he's just fallen over and things like he's got dumb luck.
He's living out his life the way his mom had told him to, which was, follow your own path. Don't let anyone decide it for you, right?
No, I wouldn't give it a 5-star only because it's a little too cheese for me. That's it.
Really?
That's
Yeah.
the only reason
I agree
why
with
it
that.
doesn't
The
give it
word
for me.
cheese comes to mind for a movie like
There's
Forrest Gump.
Yes.
definitely some cheese with
The
Forrest
Bubba
Gump.
shrimp stuff, and it got a little.
The part where he's
cheese.
walking out carrying Bubba and all the explosions are just right behind him. It's like, all right. I mean,
It was cute.
Yeah, it's
was,
cute.
It was funny, and it had
funny.
a lot of iconic moments and quotable moments. Like life is like a box of chocolates.
Oh, God.
See, a lot
You
of
know,
what you
like,
guys are describing
something
as
like that.
cheese, though, is part of his personality and his character. And, of course, befriending characters like Bubba Gump it made perfect sense because he was the only one that was going to take him in on as a friend. They were. I don't know. I kind of find it weird that you guys would use the word cheese, though.
That is the only word that comes to mind. I wish I had a synonym for cheese right now.
It almost sounds to me like as if there was this almost too much use of humor, I guess, to take you out of these moments that were awkward, I guess. Is what you're
and maybe that's what it was, because there were some serious moments. Like when he's at war and his buddy lost his legs, and all of a sudden, like you said, he's holding them, and things are blowing up around him and just missing him. It's like, okay, this is a cutesy little movie. So it wasn't a war movie. It wasn't I don't know. It was a little bit of everything, but not enough of what I wanted in a movie to make it a 5 star. So that's why.
See, I can't even... It's funny you say that, too, because when I think about it, I can't lump Forrest Gump into a specific category. It's simply a drama. It's one of those things where his entire life story, there's always something dramatic that had to happen to him right up until the present day, which just added to it. So, yeah, it's not action. It's not comedy. It's not a chick flick per se. It's just to say that it has the tone of a chick flick, I think, if I were to use that term very stereotypically.
I wouldn't call it a chick flick. I just call it a drama,
well, that's the thing.
A well-driven drama, and it's still a good movie. I
just don't know. I never would consider using the word cheese in a movie like this. I know of some movies that actually have cheesy moments that are not supposed to have cheesy moments. That's what I call cheese. Okay. This did it in such a way that the characters had to be believable, and Bubba Gump being one of them. Especially how many different ways you can cook shrimp. Fried shrimp, grilled shrimp, sautéed
cheese. Yes.
Okay,
cutesy humor.
Cutesy. Well, then how about instead of cutesy or fromage? Yeah, cutesy. It was cutesy, and that's why it just lost it for me. I'm not into the cutesy stuff, I guess.
Okay. I get that this is not an epic movie. There's nothing epic about this. Aside from maybe when he goes to war, which could be somewhat epic. I mean, him running away from a napalm explosion.
Would you ever buy a Forrest Gump action figure?
Wow. No, and that's not what makes a movie.
You're right, it's not. Rating. But it does. I mean, if you have that thing that draws you in and it wants you to be a part of that world.
You're talking marketing. Nice try.
Well, I am, but marketing is a part of it. A part of a good movie. Don't shake your head. It totally is. Look at Star Wars.
That's the
Look
business.
Look how successful Star Wars is.
But you're talking about the Golden Child story.
Okay, Terminator, Alien. You would still buy action figures of Terminator and Alien.
I know. See, that's why I love how what I chose for different reasons, and I feel like
that's what it is.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to. And I totally get what you guys are saying. Yes, I would buy an action figure for every single one of your movies. If someone offered me a Forrest Gump action figure, the hell do you do with him?
What?
I mean, you can run, Forrest, run! Well, that poor guy can't fucking walk.
It'd be great if you got like Lieutenant Dan with removable legs.
Or maybe you take off his special boots and put them on Lieutenant Dan. Maybe they'll have interchangeable legs. I don't know.
Lieutenant Dan comes with a hooker.
The boot comes with the hooker. There's a button in his back and his legs shoot off out of the wheelchair.
He's like those crash test dummies. You press a button, he explodes.
Anyways, going back to the beginning, that's what it is. The cheese factor, and that's why Empire Strikes Back. It's a good movie. It's not my favorite Star Wars movie. We won't get into what it is, but it had a lot of great iconic moments. But the action in that movie compared to this movie, I don't know. I feel like there was more. Like you're holding on to your seat while Arnold is.
I will give you this.
You
definitely have more action in your movie. From beginning to end, not the very beginning, but as soon as like T-1000 starts pursuing John Connor, it's like you're gripping onto your seat and it's balls to the wall action.
Tension. And that's what it is for me, is that rising tension. And I found that Empire Strikes Back didn't really have that. There was close at the beginning when the AT-ATs are getting close to the shield generators. It's like, are they going to make it? Are they not going to? You know they're going to make it. Come on. So I don't know. It didn't have the tension for me, and it didn't have the action. Okay, but it's got the story. Yeah, of course. Star Wars lore is my favorite.
I mean, think of a movie back that it was kind of risky to do what they did with the Han Solo character, and then continue it onto another movie. No other movie franchise has done that before Star Wars. They made the trilogies like a popular thing. Like nobody wanted to. Then the next thing you know, you got Back to the Future trilogies, and you're allowed to do Lord of the Rings, and then other things that follow. Some better, some not so much. But I mean, like, no one dared to do that. It's like, okay, let's take one of our main heroes, let's put him in a comparable situation where he might not survive, he might not even be back. the next movie. We don't even know if we can convince Harrison Ford to come back for the next Star Wars movie. And they do this, and it's like, oh my god. Like, I mean, that's how you end the movie? But Han Solo! I mean, I don't know. What else can I say?
It was a bit of like a Rocky ending where he doesn't win, but you know he's coming back to kick some ass in the next one.
And I'm fucked in the head because obviously I like that kind of shit. Like, I love the pathos and I love the tragedy to it. You know what I mean? It's like all right, it's that build up before your final chapter. You're just like, oh, just so much hope going into that last movie.
You guys are talking about the stereotypical arc of the second act of a 3-act play, though.
Yeah.
In the first movie, or the first act, you always introduce all the characters, you introduce the plight, you introduce the villains, you introduce the overarching problem. In the second one, you put all the characters in the worst possible situation they could be in, and in the third one, they're victorious. So I don't really feel like Lucas really broke the mold when he wrote that story. It's not... You look at any trilogy movie, you'll still end up with that same situation. At the end of the second movie, the characters they established in the first movie are always up against the wall. Like they have to make it or break it time. And the third movie is going to be all resolution.
It is a safe formula to get that epic build of a climax of a series in this case, because we are talking about a series here at this point, right?
Yeah.
Saga.
When you're narrowing it down to one movie, or even a saga, because Star Wars goes well beyond 3 movies at this point. God, even Marvel's going to have that effect now, where they're not going to have the luxury of being able to build up that whole introduce,
they're still introducing
major conundrum and then
Well, the
solution
thing with
to
the
problem.
Marvel movies is that they're not structured the same way because they have all the other movies to rely on, so they don't have, like Captain America Winter Soldier Part 2, I mean, it's not much of a cliffhanger there, except for, like, oh, we're gonna go find Bucky. You know what I mean? Guardians of the Galaxy 2, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it already and haven't listened to our review, which you really should listen to that. It has a pretty happy ending as well, so it's not like all...
But the MCU...
But that's the Marvel anyways.
The MCU is moving towards Thanos, though. That's the
of
big
course.
thing moving around in the background.
That's
but
their
that's
build.
not a 3-act play. That's
a major.
This is like a fucking 30-piece act.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's quite a dance.
So it's hard to compare Marvel to that.
Yeah.
Well, given the type of fight we're talking about here, and now we're kind of sidetracking, but with Marvel in particular, that build up to the Infinity Gauntlet and the Infinity Wars, like that's a pretty massive battle compared to, in my opinion, Star Wars. There's always a battle. There's always going to be a battle in Star Wars. Even
Hence
at the
the
end,
wars.
Even at the end of Return of the Jedi. Yeah, hence the wars, yeah. At the end of Return of the Jedi, we saw the ending of one generation, and now we're starting to see the building of a new generation, which has its own arc. So it's like it's a never-ending thing. Marvel will have that own effect once it goes beyond the Infinity Wars. I'm curious to see what they'll do.
Yeah.
But right now, they're riding the wave as much as they can.
Probably an Avenger-led team by either Captain Marvel or Spider-Man, I'm thinking.
I will say, though, for Empire Strikes Back, one really great point that you were just talking about there is the fact that they split things up, and Luke is no longer with the rebels. You know what I mean? Like Han and the rest of them are kind of doing their own thing. Mm-hmm. They splinter all the teams. Everybody's spread out, and they all kind of come together. You know what I mean? Like Luke's on Dagobah and whatever.
Yeah.
So they're telling a lot of different small stories that all have their resolution.
And that's kind of a part of it, too, because of the grand scale of the storytelling.
Yeah.
It expands more than just one area of space. Okay, we're over here now,
There's lots of different stuff going on.
All right, I mean, we could probably argue all day as to why, mine's a 5 and yours isn't and all that, but let's face it, they're all good choices, guys.
I can't even pit them against each other, to be honest. My Forrest Gump can't stand up against your 3. You guys have way too epic of movies. It doesn't mean mine doesn't deserve a 5, though. I'm still standing on that.
I can go against Empire Strikes Back with Alien directly. And let me tell you why.
I think you should do that because I feel like there's not enough Alien.
Okay, so
I haven't really had a chance to really flex my muscle on
then
this.
do it.
Yeah, flex that fucker.
I'm a huge fan of science fiction, not just movies but books. I love 20th century science fiction before the advent of the internet. There's a very real dividing line between early and late 20th century science fiction.
Everything's internet based after the invention of the internet.
Yes, exactly. While movies like 2001: A Space Odyssey gave us the idea of the vid phone and long distance communication, there are a lot of books. Larry Niven's Ringworld series, which Halo heavily borrowed from, and
by the way, not to cut you off, but don't forget the AI that Space Odyssey had introduced
Yes.
for its time period, because that was something that continued a variety of movies too.
yeah,
Sorry.
you always see AI.
I'm sorry,
now.
Dave. I can't allow you to do that.
You always see AI. You always see now they have some kind of a transmat or internet type thing. You know what I mean? No matter how far away they are
Matrix.
from each other. Yeah. So there's a real dividing line in the sand. And one of the things that they used to deal with a lot in science fiction was science fiction didn't hold your hand. All themes were open. Everything was accepted, up to and including books like The Forever War by Joseph Haldeman. This is a really I don't know if you guys read a lot of science fiction, but he wrote this back in the 70s. And
We promised books.
This is a very pivotal science fiction book. He wrote a couple more books afterwards, but the idea deals with time dilation, and these warriors go and they fight this war for Earth with this alien race called the Taurans. And the thing is that when they go to fight them, they have to use this method of space travel called time dilation that allows them to get from one place to the next very quickly. But the problem is that time actually keeps going on Earth at the same time, and he deals directly with the idea of homosexuality as a necessary means for man to curb its population crisis. By the time he gets back thousands of years from now, homosexuality, I'm serious, homosexuality has become a staple, and babies are grown in labs, and you know what I mean? The point is that science fiction was science fiction was not afraid to deal with issues like that. And I mean, he wrote this book back in the 70s, right? And then you have like Orwell's 1984, and
So this is leading up to Alien?
Yes, it is. Anyways, so now late 70s, we get to the late 70s, and science fiction writing it's at its all-time best. Like, there are really great ideas coming out. Like I said, Niven's Ring World and Haldeman's Forever.
Isn't that safe to say also when the Dune series was very prominent?
Dune. Heinlein was doing a lot of his work. Well, Starship Troopers was a little bit earlier than that. But the point is that science fiction was in a very grand place. There were a lot of different themes being dealt with. And then Star Wars came out. And once Star Wars came out, everything science fiction latched onto Star Wars, and Star Wars effectively whitewashed science fiction right through the 80s. It totally did. It basically neutered the genre. Everything else was everything else was trying to be Star Wars. I'm telling you, it's true.
Well, I said that earlier today. Either Star Trek or Star Wars. Yeah.
No, Star Trek is way before. This is
exactly. So everything's trying to be Star Trek or Star Wars.
No, it's trying to be Star Wars. There's a very marked decline in the diversity of science fiction after Star Wars comes out, and I felt like Alien which came out in '79, was one of the best examples of how a science fiction movie in the post-Star Wars era could exist without emulating Star Wars, because it was such a massive force to be dealt with that everything else that came out around that time was influenced by it. And I felt like Alien kept its own identity throughout the franchise. They said, okay, we understand Star Wars, you're doing the space opera epic thing, and everybody else wants to do that. That's cool, but this is what we're doing. Like, we pulled Scott has pulled the best elements of the idea of being stranded in space, and he's given you something that can scare you. And it might have got snowballed by Star Wars at the time, but the Alien franchise still endures, and it's gone on to endure in
for sure,
comic books and whatnot.
And expanded even the Predator universe.
Yeah, exactly. And those two grew together, even in the comics and then later on the movies. But my point is that I can't give it to Star Wars because I feel like Star Wars has effectively bent science fiction along its own path. Not on purpose. But
so shouldn't that be a reason why you give it to Star Wars? Because it influenced everyone else?
I know what you're saying. You're saying it was kind of watered down the genre.
It is. It made science fiction so mainstream, and it introduced it introduced so many themes that so many people, even little kids, could latch onto. Nobody's gonna tell a 7-year-old kid, "Hey, you like science fiction? Here's Haldeman's Forever War. It deals a lot with homosexuality." Like, you know what I mean? Like they were the thing is that the medium, which now has been relegated to like kid stuff and early adolescent stuff, was at one time dealing with really mature.
Maybe not no one. Anyways, keep going.
It was dealing with really mature and mature themes and diverse themes, and now it's like everything's.
I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying.
I have to give it. What I'm saying is I have to give it to Aliens over Star Wars because Alien.
For reference, Star Wars came out in 1977.
Yeah.
Alien is 1979, and Empire is 1980.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm saying. Like Alien kept its identity in a post-Star Wars world. They said, okay, we get that everybody else is going to try to be Star Wars right now, but we're doing something else. Space is scary. Space is deadly. We're not flying around on...
In space, no one can hear you scream.
Yeah, that's a pretty awesome line, too. But even just the intro, everything about it, you know what I mean? Like
my only issue with that particular Alien movie, I think it's almost the effect that we just talked about with versus A New Hope compared to Empire Strikes Back. Empire, for me, is by far a much better movie because it had a much darker tone and serious underlining, story arc. Putting that Star Wars aside for a second, Alien versus Aliens had the same effect for me too. Alien was great. I love it. I will still pick that over Aliens in terms of the true alien origin story because it was all about horror. That's what the xenomorph species had to do with them being a very strong force to be reckoned with, but in sheer numbers, if you ask me. One alien can be a threat, but technically they can be dispatched. The second you allow it to propagate and actually give it a chance to spread, then it becomes literally...
infestation?
Yeah, an infestation, and now you have a bigger problem. Good luck getting rid of that. That's what Aliens did for me. It took that raw, threat that we saw from the first movie, which she didn't dispatch it, so to speak. She just opened the door and the thing got spat out into space.
Game over, man!
Yeah.
Second movie, it's
thanks,
like
Paxton.
they had a platoon up against a base of aliens, which was...
They had Bill Paxton.
I know, and that was the star power that backed up the entire movie, right? So this is where I think the story arc was that much more epic. Kind of like how I would see the Two Towers take what... worked really nicely out of the Fellowship of the Ring, and it made the story even more epic if it was even possible, So I think that's why, for me, Alien, I think, lacked the impact over time. It was a very slow-moving movie.
It was a slow-burning movie.
And then when you finally get to that alien for the very first time, oh, baby, you realize... You suddenly realize what kind of threat it is, but...
You're getting more excited about this than Forrest Gump. You sure don't want to change your choice?
Well, this is... the thing for me is just... I'm just saying that I would choose Alien over Star Wars because I appreciate the fact that Alien made for itself an undeniable identity at a time when Star Wars was the biggest thing the world had ever seen. And Alien still managed to carve out a place for itself.
But it still has a little bit of an issue for me where that rewatchability comes into play. Alien, I can only rewatch it so many times to the point where I get a little tired of it. On the other hand, all of these other movies we've chosen, I feel I can go back to them at any point. That's why I'm not going to disagree with anyone's choices here. I feel like I would almost be doing the same thing. Empire Strikes Back and Two Towers, and those are almost easier choices for me. I was hoping to avoid that. Hence why I'm debating my Forrest Gump choice. But that's why different movies offer me different things. Like you guys were talking about the cheese out of Forrest Gump. Maybe the cheese is what's making me come back to it. I don't know, but I don't think
it's a lighthearted.
I don't think it's cheese. That's it right there. Lighthearted.
Yeah, lighthearted might be the right word.
It's all about how Forrest Gump interprets the world through his eyes.
Yeah.
So he never comes across.
He's just a simple man, but he achieves so much.
Yeah, and even in the darkest points in his life, it's still about how he views it. So the movie itself never really gets that dark. Like, so when he is saving Bubba from the napalm explosion, right? When Jenny dies.
Yeah, his relationship with Jenny was very dark.
Messed up.
Yeah, but I don't think it was messed. I think if the movie would have been told from her point of view, it would have been messed up. But I think since they tell it from his point of view, he keeps it very simple. He just loves her and that's it.
I think that's probably why it's such a relatable story arc, whether it would have been a Forrest Gump himself or it would have been another simple individual telling the same story, that the simplicity of his storytelling, I think, is exactly why it was such a timeless story, simply said. Jenny's point of view would have made things a hell of a lot darker, and I don't think it would have been the same movie. It would have meant, like, her psychedelic trips, during her drug moments, when she was off getting beaten by that one guy who was part of the
Black Panthers.
The Black Panther movement. Like, that's really dark. If she would have kept going down that path, that would have been a completely different movie. But at the same time, she always seems to find her way back to Forrest.
Yeah.
Even how simple he may be of an individual, in her heart, she always felt like, she had feelings for him, but she would never admit to it until, lo and behold, she's about to die. Oh, now we gotta tell him.
I've got AIDS. Hey, I can be with you now.
Yeah. All right. Love story. Let's wrap this up, guys, because we can debate about 5-star movies all night long. Do you guys agree with us? What's a 5-star movie to you? You could leave a comment below if you agree or disagree with us. And check this out in the future because we're going to do a little ratings retcon very soon. It's just going to be a nice little clip where we're going to take one of our movies that we rated before and we're going to change the rating on it. That's right. Sometimes when you watch a movie, it's not the same as you watch it the second time or the third time. And, it's fucking up my ranking system. So I need to fix some of these movies. And I'm actually pretty anxious to do that.
And I think it's safe to say we want to start hearing from other people's. I'd like to know what other people's favorite five-star movies are.
No, definitely. I definitely want to know what other people's 5-star movies are because we've listed a whole bunch of great movies, but there's still so many great movies out there. I'm sure there's ones that we haven't even thought of or even considered. But what's your favorite 5-star movie? It's all a matter of opinion.
Sitting here discussing this has actually brought up
other movies
to me. In my head, I've brought up an entire list of other movies. Plus, that's not counting the movies that you guys have brought up, like Fight Club, Blade Runner. You know what I mean? Like, I know I love those movies, but they just weren't. I just didn't think of them, and right after you guys said them, I was like, oh, damn it, I missed that one.
A lot of good movies.
All right, so you can check us out on Eastlink. We got a great show. It's called Late Night Ticket. We invite you every week to check that ticket. New episodes are on Mondays at 10. So what I hear. So Channel 10 at 10 if you're in the Sudbury area, HD 610. And if you're out of the Sudbury area, I hear that it is starting to show up on demand, so you can find it there. And if it's not in your area, then please send a request through the Eastlink website. Tell them you want to see Late Night Ticket. You want to hear from the We Promise Nothing guys. Check that ticket every week with us, folks. And join the conversation on Facebook at We Promise Nothing. Drop the G. Give us a big ol' like on Facebook, because we like when you do that. Say goodbye to the crowd, everybody.
This is Clayton, getting sucked out of the airlock.
This is Myles saying, hasta la vista, baby.
And this is Dabu going for a run.
And this is JPar saying, may the force be with you. And if you disagree with anything you heard on the show today, or you want to let us know what your 5-star movie is, then definitely leave a comment below. But, as always, we promise nothing. Good night.